coming full circle with center to edge aiming. This video is going to represent my final thoughts on the topic. I just want to tie up a couple loose ends and share a few additional thoughts. So, you know, as you become proficient with CTE Pro 1, you're going to, at some point, you know, have the option to either use the professional sweeps or use the manual pivoting. They're both very accurate. So on this shot right here, I'm going to set up so that I have a 15 from the outside. So there's my 15. Now I'm going to tweak my 15-degree perception to where it's perfect. I want to be perfect. Now I'm at center cue ball. So my aiming is complete at this point right here. It's all about speed control and a straight stroke. Nice little angle to get down table. This is going to be a 30 and inside. So there's my 30. Now I'm just going to physically allow my body to comfortably move so I can pick up with that 30-degree perception once again. There it is. I'm going to tweak it to where it's perfect. Now I'm going to pivot to center. Once again, my aiming is through at this point right here. It's all about speed, cue ball control, straight stroke. So I'm just going to make sure I back this ball up about 12 inches in order to be able to get down to the 5 easily. So this is a 15 from the outside. Now I'm going to match that 15 in full stance, just as I did just as I had in ball address. So there's my perfect 15 right there. Pivot to center. Now I'm going to concentrate on my stroke and my speed at this point. Now I'm just going to float down for the 5. I don't really want to get straight in on the 5. So I'd like to get an angle here or an angle there. See, which one do I want? I think I'm going to go below the 5 slightly. So there's my 15. Now I'm just going to sort of sweep physically right into the 15-degree perception. Now I'm going to pivot to dead center and I'm going to roll this ball. So just a little bit below the 5. So I'm just going to sort of pinch it, slide it right up to the 6 so that I have an angle to do the same thing again up to the 7. This is going to be a 15 from the outside. So I see that from here. So my angle is solved. So my speed and my spin is solved because I know I'm wanting to go here. So I've worked with angle, speed, and spin. Now there's my 15. Now I'm going to build my stance completely around this 15-degree perception. You know, people ask, well, what do you look at on the object ball? Well, when I get down, I look at the relationship between the cue ball and the object ball. Now when I pivot to center, now the cue ball is my target. There's nothing on the object ball that's my target. So I'm just going to pinch this slightly up the table. Okay, so I went too far. Talking too much, but that's all right. I like to just pop it off the rail as much as I can. Get back up table. So it's going to be a 15 from the outside. So I'm going to just go right into the perfect 15-degree perception. There it is. Pivot to center. Now I'm just going to pop the ball. So what I'm doing is constantly Doing the same thing. Fall into my perception, make the perception perfect, then pivot to center. I might give that a quick double check, and then my attention shifts to the straight stroke to center cue ball, and I'm focusing on the spin needed for my position. I got a little bit, I'd like to have been inside this diamond right here out in the middle of the table, so I might pop this ball off the rail right here. So this is going to be a 15 from the inside. I'm just going to pop it off the rail, about a diamond and a half back out into the middle of the table. So there's my 15. Now, I'm going to repeat that 15-degree perception right here. I'm going to make it perfect. That's what allows me to make this ball when I pivot to center. So I'm going to pivot to center. There it is, dead center. Now, this is all about speed. Popping that ball off the rail, a diamond and a half. Okay, I went 2 diamonds, so I had a little bit of room for error there. Now I just like to come back out here to where I can just keep popping the ball out in the middle of the table. That's what 9-ball is about. It's an angle game, just creating the proper angles all the time. So this is going to be a 15. So there's my perfect 15 right there. There's my pivot to center. I'm going to add like a 1/4 tip of spin on this ball. Now just pop the ball out into the center again. This time, it'd be okay if I get straight in, of course. Once again, I'm at a 15. So I'm just going to tweak my vision right into the 15-degree perception from the 1/2 tip inside position. Okay, there it is. Now pivot to center. Now I've got to trust this line right here. So, all about speed and spin here. This will be a 15 from the inside. I want to give this shot the same attention that I gave the other 9 shots. This shot doesn't get any more. They should all have equal attention. So there's my 15. There's my move right into the 15. Now I'm going to tweak right to the perfect 15. There's the perfect 15. Now I'm going to pivot to center. Now I'll be looking at the cue ball last here when I shoot. So there's my straight stroke to center cue ball. I looked at the cue ball last, so once I got through with my aim, then I shifted my attention over to the cue ball, the speed, the spin. It's in that manner that you can truly learn to trust center cue ball. Because in real center to edge aiming, once you go to center cue ball, you understand, you have a tremendous confidence that that line is the line that represents the shot line, the real shot line, the one that has you in a slight overcut. If you're just falling in on center cue ball directly, you may not exactly trust that line 100%, and that's when the steering can take place. That's when that little bit of outside or inside spin might be a little bit of a security blanket for a lot of players, even professional players. But one of the huge benefits of center to edge aiming is that when you pivot that cue to center, your eyes are no longer exactly on the shot line. The cue's on the shot line, but the eyes are ever so slightly off of the line. So that's telling you right there, you're not going to be steering. You're going to trust that line. you're going to shift your attention over to the cue ball control, the spin, and you can notice your stroke. So you get an absolute routine with center edge aiming that is, to me, it's as strong as it can possibly get. So one of the things that I do want to make a comment on is I've probably had 100 people over the last few years that'll send me an email or they'll call me and they'll say, well, what do you look at when you get to center cue ball? Well, if you're doing visual sweeps, I'm just going to set up an easy shot right here because I don't want to have to think about missing a ball. I want to make sure I know I'm going to make it. So this is a simple shot, but I just want to take you through a point here. This is a 15 and an inside, and I'm going to do a professional sweep here. So there's my 15. There's my sweep right to center cue ball. Well, I've done this so much, I trust this shot line 100%. But if I were just starting out on this process, I could say, well, the contact point looks good, the ghost ball looks good, or the fractions look good. Essentially I'm in a little bit of an overcut here, but I'm just going to, just pocket the ball. But once you're using centered edge aiming, you quickly get away from what else you might have previously been doing, and you just learn to trust the shot line. But when you're sweeping to the balls, it's completely fair game to use whatever experience you have. Does the shot look like it's on according to contact point, ghost ball, fractions, or whatever was that you had been used to using? Now, it's like I said just a little bit ago, if I have a shot that I'm going to use manual pivoting on, I'm going to establish my 15, and I might lose that 15-degree perception slightly from ball address to full stance, but one of the huge benefits of really working with learning these perceptions is not only can they be learned here, you can know what the perceptions look like here. So this is a huge full circle benefit. You start off with CTE by learning manual pivoting, and then I highly recommend that you learn the professional sweeps. That's what the pros are doing. So that's very strong. And then, once you become an expert with the system, once you master the system, you may circle right around to where you began with half-tip pivoting. And one of the reasons, probably the strongest reason that I like the manual pivoting is because I have objectivity here just like I do if I'm going to use a sweep. So I have objectivity here whether I'm going to sweep or whether I'm going to pivot. But now if I sweep, I've lost my objectivity. I just have to trust that I'm on the shot line because I'm doing the same thing over and over and over. Because when you're visually sweeping into the shot, you're only a half a tip off the shot line. So it's that little rotation into center cue ball that's the trick behind all this. I don't care what you call it. It's that the common denominator behind manual pivoting and sweeps is just that little half tip pivot. It's not much. So when you're up here looking at this shot, the visuals for 15, you're just slightly off of the shot line. So that little rotation in there is not much difference to make up. But here's my 15. Now I'm going to very comfortably move into this perception of 15 degrees. Now, what am I looking at here? I'm looking at the cue ball object ball relationship, a 15-degree relationship. Now, when I turn this tip to center, my eyes are not quite congruent with the shot line. The cue's on the shot line perfectly. So I'm going to trust that. I know how the system works. So I've developed trust into this. So once again, there's my 15. Now when I pivot to center, my aiming is essentially over right now. I'm going to shift over to cue ball control, speed, spin, whatever, and then just make sure I've got a straight stroke. And